back to Inspired by Dreams with Dayana. This show is all about dedicating my time in order to bring out individuals and stories that inspires and matters the most. Forgiveness. What is forgiveness? The action or process of forgiving or being forgiven. That's forgiveness. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Solitair, who is part of this project called FU. Wait, I know what you think F stands for, but here F stands for forgiveness. We all know how important it is to forgive and to be forgiven. With no further delay, let me introduce you all to Solitair, who is here to discuss a little bit about this project. Thank you, Solitair, for being here with me today.
Yes, thank you very much, Diana. I appreciate the introduction. Glad to be here. Solitair from the Forgiveness Project, and I'm also a hip-hop artist and producer and recording studio and music school owner of Four Sound Media and Four Sound Music.
Wow, Solitair. So all I knew was that you are part of this Forgiveness Project, but now that I'm hearing that you are also being involved in hip-hop, how long have you been involved in that?
Yeah, I've been, I'm older than I look. I've been in the hip-hop industry in Toronto since the 90s.
Oh!
Yeah, my first single officially on vinyl, that's to show you how long ago it was in, I want to say it was like 1994 or 1995. It was called Silver Surfer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I've been in the industry as an artist, as a producer, and more currently songwriting and engineering and mixing and recording, pretty much all aspects of performing hip hop and R&B.
Well, interesting. Okay, now let's get back to our Forgiveness Project.
Yes, absolutely.
Would you be able to tell me what this Forgiveness Project is actually about?
Forgiveness Project is basically, we have a series of discussions. Creator Tara Muldoon, she started this project. It's in about its 10th year. I've been involved for close to 5 years now, and it started off, excuse me, it started off as an exploration of the concept of forgiveness and what does it look like in people's lives. I think what you said, your description at the beginning, your definition at the beginning, was a very layman's explanation of forgiveness. You know, you do somebody does something wrong to you, or you do something that's wrong to somebody. You acknowledge the wrong that you did, and you apologize, and the person forgives you. So that's kind of the way people understand forgiveness in a very simplistic way. But what the Forgiveness Project has evolved into is furthering this discussion about what forgiveness actually looks like, and there's various forms of forgiveness as well. So we have conversations, we have workshops for young people, for older people. Sorry, I don't want to make them feel bad. Experienced people, should we say that?
Yeah.
Women, men, basically anybody who's been a victim of trauma or been wronged or been assaulted, to explore the idea of how forgiveness can help them heal and come to terms with those issues that they've had. And one of the most important things that I've come to learn about from being involved with the Forgiveness Project is that forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. And I think that's probably the most powerful thing, because it enables you to empower yourself to take control of the hurt or the anger that you've been dealing with, and release it from yourself. And in terms of forgiving the other person for what happened, you allow that person to move on, you're able to move on. Not to say that you forget, but it definitely empowers you to take control over your feelings. So, and that's kind of just the basic
Why was this project introduced?
I don't want to speak on behalf of Tara's story, but if you look her up, there's definitely a lot of information about her experience and what inspired her to create the Forgiveness Program. But essentially, she had been a victim of assault, and in that situation, she didn't receive the justice she felt that she deserved from the criminal justice system. As a result, she had her own trials and tribulations that she was dealing with, mental anguish and, fear and anger and, all this, this cocktail of emotions. And she was trying to figure out a productive way to deal with the hurt and heal and move forward with her life without being self-destructive. So she turned to this idea of forgiveness and what does it look like? How do I move forward from this incident to become a better person, to become stronger, more emotionally in control of my actions? And she turned to forgiveness, and in exploring that, it was a process of self-exploration for herself, as well as the idea of people who have been through similar circumstances being able to come together and exchange stories and ideas of how they were able to cope. And it was all framed around the question, what does forgiveness look like in your life?
Nice. And I'm sure she has done a great job.
Tara is an amazing person, and I think when you get to know her story and the tribulations she's been able to overcome, it really gives you a sense. And I think for me, it's inspiring because, it's one thing, I don't know if you're familiar with this commercial from back in the day about the hair club for men.
Yes.
And it said, and the owner says, I'm not only the hair club president, I'm also a client. Like, Tara is also very much a client, so to speak, of the Forgiveness Project, in that she very much lives the philosophy of forgiveness, and that she's forgiven the perpetrator who assaulted her, and how that has affected her ability to move forward and help other people deal with those situations.
Yeah, of course. So, Solitair, you have been involved in this project for the past 5 years, and could you explain a little bit to me about your experience?
Yes, I've been involved, like I said, for about 5 years now. I've known Tara through the music industry because she used to do PR publicity for various artists for a long time prior to starting the Forgiveness Project. And so I'd known about her, but I only met her actually when I became involved with the writing of her third book. Forgiveness Project also has published a series of books. And I became involved in the third one, which was called Manhood, exploring themes of sexuality, what's the success look like for men. It was primarily targeted to male writers because the previous two books were dominated by female writers. So she wanted to kind of get the male perspective as it relates to forgiveness. So I wrote the outro for that book, and that's when our relationship officially began, where I was directly involved with the Forgiveness Project. So I participated in a few workshops, hosting, and also speaking on a panel. And then the opportunity came up for us to start a program at Toronto South Detention Center for inmates there. Toronto South, for people who aren't familiar with the jail, has been, I want to say it's been open for about maybe like 8 years. It's relatively new. It replaced the Don Jail. And as such, there was a severe lack of programs for inmates. So one of the volunteer coordinators at the Toronto South had heard about the program that Tara ran, and they, had discussions about how could we bring this program to the inmates. It's very intriguing, especially when you're talking about, at the jail, people who are facing charges. It's pretty serious charges. To have this discussion about forgiveness and surrounding issues, things like anger management, conflict resolution, restorative justice, and all these various themes that have to do directly with the criminal justice system. And that's how we initially started. I want to say it was September 2019, so it's 2016, I think. And so that's how that was how I became entrenched in the Forgiveness Project personally, because we started running these workshops.
Nice. So you do visit jails?
Yeah. We do. It's been, I guess, a journey in the sense of when we first started, we didn't know what direction we would take. We didn't know how the inmates would respond to this idea of forgiveness. And since then, it's evolved to incorporate music production class. We've been able to bring in MPC Live, which is like digital production software, primarily for like electronic music, like hip hop and EDM. A lot of different styles of music. We also have a creative writing program in there, but it all evolved from these workshops, these conversations, we like to call them, about so what does forgiveness look like? And we kind of start off. Tara tells her story, I tell my story, being a hip-hop artist in the industry, and then we both kind of explain our relationship to forgiveness and how we came to do this workshop. And we put forth a series of different case studies about that kind of challenge the inmates to really rethink what forgiveness is and what role it plays in dealing with trauma and dealing with anger issues and dealing with conflict.
So at the beginning, I'm sure you would have found it very challenging dealing with this situation in the jail. How do you find the inmates finding you and Tara coming in and doing all these workshops? Do they find you guys comfortable?
Yeah, it was intimidating. I mean, to be quite frank, you going in there, for the very first workshop, you don't really know what to expect. You don't know what kind of programs that they've been involved with. You don't know what their crimes are that they've committed, why they're in there. Everybody has a story. That's another thing, another very important theme that we try to make sure that we address when we have these conversations. We don't know anybody's story. We don't know anybody's charges. We have these conversations in a judgment-free environment. And the initial response was pretty intense. I mean, we had about, for those of you who are not familiar with how the jail is laid out, this Toronto South is kind of a new, I don't want to say experimental, but it's a new format for the way the jail is set up. What they call it, it's like an open range concept where the security guard is on the range and the inmates are actually out and about. There's tables and whatnot, and they also have program rooms where they're supposed to have the programs. But the first workshop, 30 guys decided they wanted to participate, and there wasn't enough room in the workshop, so we were literally sitting on the range with 30 guys sitting on chairs, sitting on top of chairs, standing around in the jail. And here is myself and Tara, talking about the program and the forgiveness and, really starting to initialize this conversation. And the response was overwhelming. The conversation was great. We had, we present these different scenarios to see, to kind of establish the baseline for what is forgivable versus what isn't forgivable. And the one thing that I feel like as society, when we think about inmates and we think about criminals, we kind of think about them very one-dimensionally in terms of the crime they committed defines who they are. You don't know, you barely know their name. Typically they might see a mugshot and so was arrested for selling drugs, or arrested for murder, or arrested for what have you. But there's no discussion about what their history is, what brought them to that stage in their lives. So we try to kind of give them the opportunity to look at other people's situations, look at these other scenarios of people who were outside of themselves that were involved in some kind of altercation or what have you, and try to establish what they think forgiveness is. And then we break down all the different layers that are, all the different versions of forgiveness that exist. And you'd be surprised at how astute these guys are, how insightful they are. I start off every workshop by saying, listen, I'm not here to teach, right? I'm not a teacher, I'm an artist. I live my life just like everybody else. But these are the experiences that I've had that brought me to the situation to try to share this body of knowledge. And I'm also here to learn from you guys on how do we address the issues that you face that brought you here, to youth on the outside before they get entangled in these situations that could lead to a life of crime. So the response was incredible, and we've kind of hit the road running, and it's been nonstop.
Wow, it's amazing. So if I were to ask you to state 3 skills for somebody to be part of this project, what would those 3 skills would be?
Confidence in understanding that forgiveness is not about the other person, and being ready to change your perspective on things, which would be number 2, open-minded. Because a lot of times, like I was saying before, we have a tendency to judge people on that one singular incident. And I mean, to be fair, some of them are they're reoffenders. So it's not like this. It's definitely a pattern of behavior. But at the same time, you have to acknowledge that everybody is doing the best they can with what they have. Yeah, I think number 3 would be patience. Be patient.
Nice, yeah.
That was actually given to me by Rare. You know who Rare is?
Oh yeah, she is my creative director.
Thought I'd give her a quick shout out, but that was definitely.
Thank you.
I think that was definitely would be number 3, patience, and which definitely ties into dealing with anybody who has had experiences in the criminal justice.
All right, Solitair. So, having said that, would you like to say something to the viewers?
I would say. In my experience, being a part of the Forgiveness Project, and just in life in general, having had the opportunity to travel and meet and connect with different people, and especially in this fast-paced social media world, one of the most important and underappreciated qualities that we severely lack nowadays is empathy. Empathy for the fact that we don't know what leads people to do what they do or make the decisions that they make in their lives. We don't know the backstory about a lot of what everybody's going through in their personal moments, and I think that's something that we really need to explore within ourselves. How can we show more empathy for people's choices in their own lives, and for ourselves as well? We have to be able to forgive ourselves for making mistakes and not beating ourselves up for not doing the things that we know we're capable of. Empathy and forgiveness are definitely hand in hand.
Great. Having said that, I really appreciate what you and Tara are doing right now for this with this forgiveness project, and I wish you both all the very best and success, and with more projects to come along.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you, and thank you for doing this interview.
All right, now, do you want to know what forgiveness means and how to forgive? Check out the website right below. And remember, it is not that difficult to forgive. It all lies on a person's decision to forgive. Until I see you guys on my next video, dream big, achieve big, and don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. Ciao from Dayana.